Folks, when you see this, we will be mere hours away from an
Hmm.
app update and our very first games of 11th edition. But right now, it is not quite that time as we record this. And so on today's show, the dispositions of Space Marines, the end of combat patrol, and agents. Are you okay? Mini Takes Podcast.
Look, if I open up your painting tutorial and the first step is getting out an airbrush, buddy, I'm not watching.
Bunch of nerds on the internet. Are you even having fun with this anymore?
Shane, if this happens, there's going to be wailing and gnashing of teeth, people burning their armies.
If you can't see it, don't paint it. Austin.
Hey, I thought you were talking about me if I was okay, because I'm actually currently fiddling around with a Lego Bilbo Baggins, and his arm isn't twisting quite like it should. And I thought maybe you had noticed the look of concern on my face, so that's why I kind of looked at the camera a little weird. I was like, "Are you talking about me?"
No, we got a couple of things this last week. We got welcome to Mini Takes Podcast, folks. I'm Shane. That's Austin, and we got all of our disposition point costs revealed finally. And there were some interesting things. There's some interesting things with the different dispositions that go with different detachments. So that's what we're going to talk about with the Space Marines and a little bit with the agents. And then the combat patrol thing I've got some takes on. But first, as always on Mini Takes Podcast, Mini Takes wants your takes. And it occurred to me that we had missed some Dave and Company frequent contributor. He comments over on Spotify. If you're listening to us on Spotify, feel free to leave a comment down there. We will read them. Otherwise, you can go over to YouTube and leave comments there. I've got one from YouTube as well. And over on YouTube, you can see us. There's a video component of this where you can see our lovely background and our faces as we bob along, gesture with our hands, and talk directly to you. Or sometimes our eyes are askant looking at any old thing in the room. You can also see in the Room for Future Nonsense section of the YouTube video, for our exclusively listening audience, it says, "We are edging." Austin shakes his head in disapproval. 11th edition is almost here. We're so close. I can feel it. Where can I feel it? I'll leave that up to your imagination. But Dave
My
and Company
pocketbook.
in your pocketbook. Well, let me tell you, both of your armies, guard and custodes, look like they're going to be really fun to play in totally different ways, and it's going to cost you something, I can tell. Dave and Company says on our, this is 2 pods ago, I believe, we are actually excited for 11th edition Warhammer 40,000. He says, GW's prices make it feel like a luxury company, that's for sure. Every 3 years, new books are needed, and now we need to buy new shapes for objectives, irregular enough that you need the outline of them. Model prices have increased steadily, paint prices, etc. I love 40K, but something's got to give here. I can't wait to try the new rules. I pre-ordered the box. I want my 8-year-old son to start playing. Figured Combat Patrol. Oh, wait. The Combat Patrol book is sold separately. Thanks, GW. Triple money sign. I tell you something. If there's anything I think that we can take away from this recent inflationary cycle that we've been in since the COVID stimulus money went out, right? And then now, price of gas with the conflict in Iran and those sorts of things. It doesn't appear that anything financially ever has to give. It feels like it should have to eventually, but I see no end in sight to stuff costing more and somehow people just continuing to exist in this roach's nest of society, if you want to think about it that way.
Well, I have a lot of thoughts on that, but I will leave that for economic fanatics. We'll save that for our future podcast of economic fanatics.
Moving on, again, Dave and Company, like I say, he always comments on Spotify, and we would love for more people to comment on Spotify. It is the ad-enabled spot that you can listen to us, which I think YouTube plays ads on anything that anybody's watching at any time, anyhow.
Probably.
However, we get the money for the ads on Spotify, which means we would like all of you on YouTube either two things. Do one of two things, please. Either you and like 5,000 of your closest associates subscribe to us on YouTube, like all the videos, make us go stone cold viral, or go listen on Spotify so that Austin can quit his job.
Are we at $1 yet?
Oh, we're well beyond $1. I looked it up.
$2.
$1.54.
We are moving up in this world.
Had a 22-cent day. On our previous episode, 11th edition 40k Crusade rules look amazing, and they do. By the way, I've pre-ordered both the Chapter Approved deck and the Dominatus Crusade deck. So, you and me are going to play that thing through, even if it's just the two of us. Dave and Company again, he says, of course we all love Austin. He's the best. As for Shane, well, anyway. I don't agree with the idea of getting rid of Stormcast. I took out Stormcast last week. Go listen back. Lots of people play them. I wouldn't be so eager to pass judgment on other people's armies. Shane said, get rid of Stormcast, get rid of Deepkin. People who invested in them shouldn't have to be afraid of their whole army being squatted. Surely there's a way to get them moved over to Battle World or whatever GW is going to do with AOS. Yeah, that's right. You're right, Dave and Company. People shouldn't be afraid of their army getting squatted. However, AOS is a funny one because at some point the game... So, here's a take. In most other, like outside of the GW ecosystem, your game comes and it is released, and maybe it has some waves to it, right? And then it is over. It doesn't go bad. You keep playing it. The books are books or whatever. Now, more and more frequently, they are less and less often books, and so it can just sort of evaporate into the internet, I suppose. But I don't know. Unless AOS has got some just stonking popularity somewhere that I'm totally unaware of, I don't see it. And when we get to our rundown of Combat Patrol, I've got some points to that. Do you have any comments on David Company's praise of you and affection for you, or anything else that he said?
Oh, I am enjoying it. I enjoy all the attention. It is the best. About AOS as not being very popular, I want to say it's a local thing because when I travel and I talk to people at other game stores, they're always talking about their AOS events kicking off and how much fun they're having there and how big their AOS community is.
Really?
And I feel like we have something locally going on that prevents anyone from playing past one event.
I mean, you don't see many battle reports on YouTube of it either, which I feel like must mean something. I mean, it can't mean nothing.
It may not be popular with media influencers. It may be popular with dads and their sons in like Mississippi.
Well, again, we're going to save it for that part of the rundown, I think, because I have theories. I've got one more. This one comes from YouTube on the previous video of the Crusade Rules Look Awesome. The Pansy Man, who's become a frequent contributor. And he's somebody... The word is out that he's somebody local, but I don't know who. You have theories.
I know who he is.
You do. I don't want to know. I don't want to know.
Okay.
I want to get.
I
want to be caught
I've
out
made
in
my
a dark
guess.
alley after making a wild take, and be forced to defend myself in the moment, while possibly talking about him. I'm a crazy person. What can you expect? He says 3 things. 1, I am not particularly interested in 11th edition, but I could give Crusade the old college try. I can only bring orcs. Well, this particular first Crusade is designed for orcs, so that will be very good. 2, bolt action sounds fun. Any advice for building a German army? Um, don't wear the outfits when you play them. Number 3, Old World question mark? That just makes me think of Mordheim, my beloved. Number 1, I don't have much on, but besides what I said. Number 2, advice on building a German army for bolt action. Uh, all the army boxes, the starter army things that they sell on Warlord Games appear to be, what are they, in the vicinity of 1,000 points worth of
Yeah,
dudes.
they're somewhere kicking 1,000.
Yeah, and there's something like 7 to 8 units, so order dice in the bag, which is gonna be not a tiny battle, and that's before you. That's just with whatever comes in the starter box, whatever they've decided to sort of curate for you before you say. But my favorite thing is a tiger tank from whatever chunk, right? And so you'll get your starter army box and you'll get something like that and maybe another couple of odds and ends, and then you'll have a full size squad and you'll only be out a couple $100. It's good.
And I'd say from what I've seen, 1,000 points is about where people play. Take some points away, add some points. 1,000 to 1,200, 1,500. So you just get the starter box. You can play like most average size games.
Yeah, I think when you see if you go look at it's a mixed bag of quality of cinematography for battle reports of bolt action I find on the internet. But often you'll see somebody doing like the Normandy invasion. That's like 3,000 points. That's way more than you need. It's more than you'd probably want to try to keep track of. When once that order dice bag starts to feel like a heavy lift, you're kind of in the clouds. Um, but the gameplay's so good in like a little village. It's a skirmish, but it's not a skirmish, right? It's a skirmish in the way that actual wartime skirmishes are. It's not the
You,
entire army lined up along the border, but it's as much as could make sense to fit in a tiny French village, for instance. Go ahead.
the way to I was just trying to match arms with you. The way it works is that
We're
you kind of have
gonna
to think of
hug.
it. Yeah, you kind of have to think of it as like a scene from Band of Brothers or any other war movie. Just think about the size of that for a scene. Like here's the squads moving in. There may be a tank rolling up or something. You're gonna have kind of like that. It's more intimate.
Zoomed
You're
way
not
in.
looking at yeah, you're not looking at like here's a tank company and here's the whole company of infantry. Here's it's not really like that. It's more like you're making a little like Hollywood scene of what World War II would look like.
Yeah, because you're gonna be fighting like over a farmhouse and the farm shop out on the back 40. That could be your battlefield, and I think that's awesome. Number 3, he says, "Old world question mark." I cannot describe to you how fun old world is from a model range position and from a just dumb bleep happening constantly. I've never played Mordheim. I feel like I've seen some of the models, and listen, there is a certain charm, there's a certain je ne sais quoi to old school GW stuff, right? Because a lot of your old world stuff is going to be older stuff. It could be really old stuff, Warhammer Fantasy era things, and then even the new stuff that they're coming out, which is like them with all their technological development of plastic model kits doing an impression, a pastiche, if you will, of their old style. It's all excellent. There's a reason GW sits atop the mountain of this thing, and you really see it in Old World when you compare it to something, say, like your Saga Vitrix, what is it, Vitrix miniatures and things like that. These Old World dudes are awesome. It's fun. It's a silly game. We're gonna play one this week. We're scheduled to play one. And yeah, Old World. Do it. As
Be there, be
always,
square.
yeah. As always, Mini Takes wants your takes, so leave them below. Again, Even if you don't agree with us, if you don't like me and what I have to say, we're still going to read them. All right, let's hit the rundown. The dispositions of Space Marines. So, this week, the big reveal has been the detachment cost. So, for those of you that don't know, in 11th edition, you're going to build your force by picking some detachments just like you normally do, except now your detachment counts some amount of points. And in a 2,000 point game, you can bring 3 points worth of detachments. And so, some stuff is 2. They're sort of giving us some little 1 point detachments. I think these are the 70 that they talked about, the 70 new detachments that begin 11th edition. Those
Mhm.
are all 1. Every single one of them is 1 detachment point. So you could theoretically take 3 of them. Uh, the way it works out is nearly, looking at the rundown, all of our armies are going to have 3 of these new mini detachments. They come with like a stratagem and an enhancement slash upgrade thing. Um, and basically, they sort of leverage let's call it the sort of flavor of your list, right?
Mhm.
And then all of our codex and all of our end of edition detachments, even the busted ones, have all been revealed to have detachment costs between 2 and 3. So far, none of those army wide detachment rule, let's call them 10th edition detachments, legacy detachments, whatever you want to say. None of those cost 1. I think some of them, by the time it's all said and done, will cost 1. But right now, they're all 2. Many are 3. So Gladius Task Force for Space Marines is still 3, or is 3,
As it should be.
because it's be good at everything, have all the gadgets, do all the stuff. Everything benefits from all the stuff, right? And so
Mhm.
it costs you 3 because it's a little bit cracked. Um, and I think that's the right thing, because you can't just have great and then pile great on top of it and expect any level of game balance. But with that, when you are building your army, you select a disposition from the ones that your attachment can select. Now, if you have multiple attachments, that gives you multiple options. You have to decide this at the list building step. So kind of before you get there to the pickup game, to the tournament, what have you. Um, and many of the Space Marines good detachments have got the disposition priority assets, which is an action heavy uh, mission set, regardless of what it works into, because we have this matchup thing now. If you bring a purge the foe where you want to kill everything, and I bring a priority assets, that makes a slightly different goal for both of us, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Now, initially, when this was revealed, everybody's hair caught on fire. Everybody, the whole internet seemed to believe that Space Marines should be either purge the foe or taken hold. And I think those people just want to win games, because that doesn't make any sense. That's not the Space Marines I know. I recently played Space Marine 2, and every single thing that Titus and them boys do is go down to the surface, fight your way through stuff, blow up the thing, capture the thing, get the guy back, look at the thing, download the data, right? They're not, and then they get out of there. They don't care what happens afterwards. Like, maybe the guard come in, and by the way, the guard, whole lot of take and hold options for them. They've got a bunch of different options with their various detachments, because there are a number of ways to build a guard army and a number of viable play styles. But I thought it was crazy that everybody seemed to all at once say, "This is ridiculous. I can't believe you want our Space Marines to be doing actions instead of killing stuff." To which I'm like, "I'm sorry. Are your Ultramarines world eaters? Because that doesn't make sense." You're running around with a captain and every single squad of dudes, and they don't have any kind of like mission. They don't have any objective greater than kill everything home. Doesn't
Hmm.
make that doesn't make a lot of sense, does it?
Maybe they're just violent Marines. They're ultra violent.
Well, it's funny. The lore people love to say, "Oh, there's no evidence for this. Oh, there's no precedent for that. Oh, they're never doing that." Da 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 da. The Space Marines always are represented, to my knowledge, of having some sort of MacGuffin that they got to chase after, or something they got to do, somebody they got to find.
It's
That,
not like they're called tactical Marines, Shane. What are you talking about?
come on, man, right? Are you with me or are you not with me? Or
No,
have
I
you
get
not been
it.
quite as deep in the weeds with this disposition business?
I haven't been deep in the weeds, but I can definitely see where people are coming from with that because I imagine what they want to do is they want to line up. They want to line up their little tank squadron of whatever it is, the big old cannon tanks. Line up those, and then they want to get their stupid whatever flavor of the year Marine squad is that obliterates
They're,
anything with like 50 bolter shots for some reason.
they
AP minus two,
right.
3 damage.
They want to shoot everything that you have off the board in turn one with their tanks, and then they want to put their Victrix honor guard in the middle point, and they want to score 100 points by turn three.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Um, don't don't talk to us about game balance anymore.
But
um,
you don't get it. They're Marines. They're the best. They're supposed to be able to do anything. They're the best. They
uh,
should be able to. They should be, one guy should be able to kill like a whole guard army.
yeah. Well, and now here's the thing that I'm loving about this, right? So the Space Marines, they want to get on the point. They want to do what they have to get there. They want to do actions. They want to set up their whatever it is they're doing, because it varies depending on who they're fighting. Um, and then the guard, they want to they want to stand here, here, and here, because they're kind of they're let's say Tempestus Scions. They're sort of sneaky guard, right? They're jumping around. They're scouting. They're carrying on like that, right?
Stormtroopers.
Yeah. How fun is that? By the way, so I've now watched three 11th edition battle reports. My favorite place to get battle reports, I shout them out every time, is Tabletop Tactics. I pay for their backstage thing, so I get not just stuff they put on YouTube, but everything else, as well as these faction focus articles and things where they've talked about how these dispositions might play with the various factions and stuff. That part kind of makes my whole head glaze over, because I just cannot. I cannot, folks. Sorry. If you come for what's good and what's going to win, you came to the wrong place. I just cannot care about what's good and how. I'm always like, ooh, I got some different ways to get Vashtor in here. Old crap Vashtor. Because some days I just like to see what he does. Um, but a lot of my Chaos Space Marine detachments are going to be disruption, which is a different kind of action thing. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a little bit evil flavor, priority assets, which I think is awesome, because it makes sense that we would be running around trying to do our shenanigans. You know, we're the Chaos Legion. We're up to no good. So I think it makes sense, and I think that also. Oh, what I was going to say about the battle reports is they keep playing these things, and initially they're like, I got an action heavy thing. I got to do all these actions. I got to da da da. But in 11th edition, you can only score 15 points per turn on primary or secondary. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And so it turns out you kind of don't have to do everything every turn. Your mission is not so much an instruction of what you do every turn as it is um, as it is a almost a play style. And then the matchups make the fights, because the play styles seem that they're tending to work with each other, if that makes sense. If that statement makes any sense for an adversarial game, right?
Hmm.
I'm playing against you to score the most points. However, both our missions are causing us to not stay out of one another's way, but they kind of don't stop one another from scoring points. I guess is the way that it ends up working.
Hmm.
You can sort of do your thing, and I can sort of do my thing, and we're both going to score. And we could play like that, but then you get into the ooh. But I kind of feel like I need to play a little defense, so I guess I'm going to lob some guys out there to go get you. You see,
Yeah.
and all that makes is what we really want is tactical decisions and risk versus reward type of decision making. You know, uh, big last hurrahs and exciting stuff. And if that's not why you're playing miniature war games, I don't know what you're doing. That's like the D&D folks that want to do the turn by turn dungeon crawl. Like always in initiative order. You know what I'm saying? It's like, well,
Hmm.
what you want to do, sir, is play a war game. We want to we want to see what sort of pastries the bakery has.
Yeah.
You got anything on dispositions, or shall we move to the end of combat patrol?
uh, I think it's interesting. I'm curious to try them out and see how they all play. Uh, I I'm curious how, because I know I like running for the Custodes lines of the Emperor, and they have access to the disruption disposition. So I think that will be interesting to see how they manage that.
Yeah, that one's going to be awesome because it'll be like your custodies have infiltrated a. I had this idea in my mind's eye hearing him talk about it on Tabletop Tactics. The Lines of the Emperor is the one where the Terminators can all the custodies can break up out of a unit, right, and be their own individual
I
unit.
think I think they have access to that unless they changed it. But
Oh
yeah,
no,
it's essentially the
it's a thing, and
yeah.
and and so it's as if this big unit of custodies has landed on some sort of alien world, and they are running around individually while, let's say, the Tyranids play predator to their Dutch as they're setting traps or inspecting something or whatever it is that they're going to do on disruption, subject to their thing. And I love the idea of a single custody as his own unit out there doing an action, and then all of a sudden he is set upon, right?
Hmm.
It'll be good. It'll just be good.
Yeah.
Here's the other thing that I think 11th edition, all this disposition malarkey is going to do, is it's going to kind of make it feel like you've got a half dozen different armies. If you're someone with a good broad collection of a faction, then you can say, well, I've played a whole bunch of Taken Hold with whatever detachments, and then you can just say, well, I'm going to take this detachment. And not only is it a different bunch of stratagems and a different detachment rule, and so a different army construction, but the whole way that you're going to go and play a match play game is going to be different because your primary is going to be something you've never seen before. And I think
Hmm.
that's just good. That's more fun with our plastic dudes, man.
Yeah.
Now, on to the next thing, the end of Combat Patrol. So, Combat Patrol, I believe, is crap and has always been crap. And it seems like they're not going away from it, but it seems like they're going pretty far away from it because the Combat Patrol rules, like all those slightly different unit cards that that are going to be in the app now. They're going to be in your faction pack, I believe, for your faction. So I guess free online. That's good. The part that I think is less good so then the Combat Patrol book seems to be a little bit of a primer for how to get into the hobby and how to collect an army and things like that. Not so much even how to play this smaller game. Now, I don't think that 40K actually needs an onboarding mode.
Why?
I don't think so. A couple of things. First, We already have points. You can just play 500 points if you wanted to. You could play 100 points versus 100 points if you wanted to, theoretically. A single unit versus a single unit to figure out how to hit, wound, and save and move, and how to work a stratagem, and how to apply an army rule, and how to get cover. You could teach the game that way. It's probably a good idea to do it that way because there's just less fire hydrant going on. What doesn't make a lot of sense to me is to play a prescriptive list that seems like it is constructed more for GW's own value, like internal value structure of what's in the box at a price point, than competitive integrity. Okay. And then for all your trouble of, okay, you've got the combat patrol box, I've got the combat patrol box. We go find our combat patrol specific rules, and then they're just that different, just a nudge different than they would be if we just made lists in the app of the same units that are in the box. So all
Hmm.
we've done is learn how to play some usually pretty basic units, because that's what comes in combat patrols, as they tend to be sort of sold as starter boxes. All we've done is learn how to play wrong. So now if we want to scale this up, like, okay, now I've got my head around this game, and it's, oh, my guys do a different thing. Okay. It just feels like it's a lot. It's a lot of steps and effort for something that you could just say, I'm gonna bring 500 points of whatever I've got. It could be a combat patrol or not, and you bring 500 points of whatever you've got. We're gonna have a teaching game or a real
The
game.
issue
Go ahead.
the issue with Combat Patrol is that, uh, and I'm not the biggest expert on Combat Patrol. I just know it as the easy way to get a bunch of models at a slight discount. But the issue with Combat Patrol is that it's a half-baked uh, idea in that it wants to be the onboarding for 40K and also be a skirmish game that people will be playing, like a miniature 40K, but it just doesn't do enough to differentiate itself from 40K. While Spearhead for Age of Sigmar has gone on to almost become its own little game within a game, due to how different it is and all the different elements it brings to the table. While Combat Patrol, you're kind of half doing the job, so you're at the point of being like, well, why don't I just play like 500 or 1,000 points to get a grasp on how to play the game?
Yeah. So let's talk about Age of Sigmar and Spearhead, because when I was talking about Age of Sigmar and its popularity, I submit to you that I think a lot of the popularity of Age of Sigmar these days is with Spearhead, because something must have
Yeah.
happened. Something must have happened. Combat Patrol was first, and it was clearly half baked. And then somebody said, "Well, we've got all these Age of Sigmar, what do they call them, battalion boxes or whatever," and somebody cooked up Combat Patrol 2.0, where they said, "Look, it doesn't make sense to just do this with this little box and some strange looking data cards. Let's give them let's sell another thing with a little primer instruction book. Let's give them a let's make a prescribed battlefield and a little bit of terrain, and we've got now 3 different iterations of this, so you can play and then it was dual sided, so you get all these different curated game types from Spearhead, and so it becomes an actually good skirmish game.
Hmm.
It's not wholly dissimilar from Age of Sigmar, except for the absence of the General's Handbook, which is always so complicated relative to the rest of the game, in my opinion. In that there's always battlefield rules, and there's your secondaries that are involved, whatever they call them, and then finally the actual missions uh, tend to be pretty involved in their scoring and what you need to do, right? So
Yeah.
then Spearhead is at this point, Spearhead is mature enough that we've got multiple Spearhead boxes to make multiple Spearhead forces for even the same factions. And they all play, within some reason, a pretty tight game. And
Hmm.
that's great. But I don't think it's actually a Age of Sigmar onboarding. I think there's just a lot of people that are just, they play Spearhead and they're happy to play Spearhead. And that's it. They don't ever play a big game of Age of Sigmar.
Yeah.
Um, and then and then there's another thing because I heard Glass Half Dead, who the best kill team channel on YouTube, unless you know of another one. I like that guy, and he was bemoaning that Combat Patrol has been essentially squatted, uh, as far as anybody can tell, and he was saying that there needs to be some sort of method for onboarding new players. And I push back on that. I don't think that full scale miniature war games like this actually need any kind of onboarding. And here's why.
Hmm.
These things are so hugely alien to the uninitiated that I don't think just having slightly less stuff or even a marginally trimmed down rule set helps. If your experience with games is shoots and ladders and Monopoly, is it shoots and ladders? Or it's snakes and ladders. It's shoots because you go up the ladder and you slide down the chute, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
What you said? Snake and ladders, shooting ladders. It's the same thing.
Oh, right. It depends on what country we're in, doesn't it?
Yes.
Well, anyway, if what is a in-person game to you is something that comes from Milton Bradley in a box, then these things are so complicated, so alien, so vast in their scope that I don't think that any of these sort of onboarding type games are helping. You've got to just be shown this thing. Or you're a crazy person who's going to take the book like I did this in ninth edition. I just took the actual core rulebook. I didn't realize that nobody was using that. It had been FAQ'd and errated to be unrecognizable, similar to 10th edition. But when you don't know how to move anything or exactly how to measure or what is visible and what is not visible, how to hit, wound, and save, that's a way you can do it. But I feel like the people that are cut out to ultimately actually participate in these things are the people that are just going to do it that way. And so I think that this whole entire conversation about how do we onboard is an unnecessary discussion. Your thoughts?
Yeah. You know,
Do you think? Well, let me ask you this:
when you first
do you think we are lesser to be rid of combat patrol?
no, because I mean, Combat Patrol. Uh, I don't know if you know this, but do you know when the Combat Patrol game came out?
I do not. I want to say the first box that
Okay.
I saw that had combat patrol on it was that CSM box that came out after the one that I got. I had the one with the Hell Brute and the and
Yeah.
it had the Hell Brute and it had the um, Dark Apostle and his two little dudes, right? And then the
Yeah.
next one came out with the Master Possession and his little squad of dudes. And that was the first. That was Wave One Combat Patrol, and all the other
Okay.
factions that came with that.
I couldn't remember if they had come out with Combat Patrol before or after the rules existed to play the game for Combat Patrol. Because I know Combat Patrol is birthed from the Start Collecting kits that they had sold, and I think What? Sorry, what were you even saying? What was the question about this? We got too much onto the other thing.
Well, I was just asking, do you think that we've lost anything for having lost it?
Okay. No, I don't think so. Because at the end of the day, what people are buying these sets for are the miniatures. They're not generally buying it to play Combat Patrol. If Combat Patrol was a better game, then yeah, we might have lost something. But it's not. Once you compare it to full scale 40K, you're not losing anything.
And then what do you think
People are
about
just there to buy the kits.
what do you think about Age of Sigmar? So, are people buying Spearhead boxes because they're expanding their armies for Age of Sigmar, or are they buying Spearhead boxes because, hey, I buy that box and I can participate in Age of Sigmar in some meaningful way? Because people are having Spearhead tournaments every time they come out with a new rule set. Whatever you call them. What was it? What was it? Fire and Ash, and Smoke and Jade, and Ricochet, and oh, I can't name another American Gladiator. That would have been a good pull if I could have got one. Nitro.
Yeah,
Um,
I think there's definitely there's a population out there that are buying these specifically for Spearhead for Age of Sigmar. Because if you can tell someone, hey, you can get a taste of Age of Sigmar and play its own little isolated game system
and we're gonna have 3 round
by
tournaments
just
on the
buying.
weekends.
Yeah, we're gonna have tournaments or even like events. We might have weekly events or something, monthly events with just Spearhead because it's that good. Why not just drop what is it 160 now? Drop 160, 170 on the box, and you have a technical full army to play for this game. You get your foot in the door for Age of Sigmar. If all you want to do is get a taste of it, that's it. You've got your lick on the ice cream cone. You're done. Uh, I think that's definitely what's going on. There's people out there that are doing that.
Yeah, and to my point of get rid of Stormcast, get rid of Deepkin. Um, kind of what I'm saying is get rid of them and Age of Sigmar, right? I could see a world where Spearhead continues to be Spearhead, and Age of Sigmar and Old World become some sort of conglomeration into basically Warhammer Fantasy again. But that's me wildly speculating. Um, we need to cover our last topic, and I don't think it'll take very long. Agents of the Imperium also got their 4 detachments revealed. 4 detachments. That's all they got. They got the 4 that were in their book. Nothing else. And I forget what the dispositions were. That was not the important part. The takeaway was a couple of things. One, they did not get any 1 detachment point tiny detachments in those 70. They were left out. The other thing that was a funny choice to me is that they declared all 4 of their detachments to be 3 detachment points each. Okay? And then the internet loved that because they said, wow, you can't even play Agents of the Imperium in a 1,000 point game because a 1,000 point game says you can only have 2 detachment points. Okay? Now, first of all, unless you are about to play with a certified bleep hole in your 1,000 point game, you could certainly play Agents of the Imperium with one of their 4 and only 4 3 detachment point detachments, because how else would they function? And by the way, all 4 of their detachments are known to be crap. You're not winning anyway. So the idea that, oh man, no, if we're having a 1,000 point tournament, nobody can bring Agents of the Imperium, that's ridiculous. Now, I don't understand the own goal that GW has done here. In that, all they had to do was say, Agents of the Imperium, all you get is your 4 detachments because bleep off. And they're all 2 detachment points. Why would that be a problem, Austin? Can you tell me how that would ever be a problem?
I think I know why it happened.
Why?
So okay, so if you think about it this way, in that agents of the Imperium are an army.
Uh huh.
Uh, if you start off with acknowledging that elephant in the room and
They are
taking the
right.
the big pill, swallow the big pill that says not an army. Uh,
Oh, not an
what are you
army.
talking about? Not an army where it's like,
Mm.
what are you talking about? My maxed out amount of arbites and my maxed out Imperial Navy guys, so I can have some kind of borderline infantry support in this army. Isn't an army, but no. If you acknowledge that it's not an army, and you acknowledge that some intern somewhere was told, "Hey, I need you to write up this article of the agents of Imperium. Throw them in there." They're like, "Okay, how many points, disposition points do they need?" Uh, doesn't matter because they're not an army. Just give them the max.
Here's my thing. You're right. It was something as throwaway as that because they're like, oh shoot, we forgot all about them. Well,
Here, yeah. Here's how it works. How it works is that in their mind, 2,000 points. The max you can take is three. Okay, so just give them the max three. You can only take one. They didn't even think about the 1,000 points. They're that much of a non-army.
but Austin, it's a 3 point limit. And in Chaos Space Marines, my Codex attachments, I got all kinds of two detachment point options. I think Veterans of the Long War might be a 2 detachment point option. Okay, and if they had just made them all two, there's no other ones that they could have because here's the thing, they are an army and therefore are subject to an army rule, which they do have, and an army construction requirement. So it's not like if they had made it all two, that then I would go and get some Imperial Fist single detachment point detachment. That's not what would have happened. It's just such a. It's like they do so good, and then they're just and then that ball just like flew. They're juggling, right? They're juggling and they're doing the thing and they're looking and they're not looking and they're pulling faces. They're juggling. All the balls are up and then all of a sudden one just flies off and they act like nothing happened.
They're not an army, and in order for them to consider them any further than that, would require more brain power to put two instead of three. And they're not an army because their army rule is saying, this is your soup book. Here's how you add this soup to your other armies that are playable.
Well, right. I mean that's another thing. Once we got the Munitorum Field Manual, and they're like, okay, so we've got Agents of the Imperium points cost, and then we've got when you do anything else with the stuff in here points cost. I was like, okay, you guys are clowning now. Look, I know it's not going to be the first codex, but honestly, I feel for the Agents of the Imperium people. They need another book, and it needs to make sense. It needs to be a proper soup book, okay? It needs to have like chaos agents and stuff too, right? It needs to be almost a narrative supplement of some kind where you can, you know what? That's what it should be. It should be like Rogue Trader, the RPG or whatever, Ages of the Imperium, and all the crazy, mumbo jumbo that they get up to. Maybe you should come with a whole mission deck, right? And it's just a way that you can have some chunk of Space Marines or whatever being led by a Inquisitor or whatever. You know
I have a solution.
what's that?
The solution to this is, what you do is you have your book of all your Inquisition units, all your just weird little rogue trader, little diddly guys. You have those, and you market it for $30 and say, this is your soup book, and beat someone over the head. You don't make an army with this. This is your soup book. This is for adding on allied units. You can't make an Arbites army with Navy guys and everything else,
I
and
agree,
trying to brute force an army out of this.
but
Because I tried doing it one time.
here's my thing that makes no sense to me about the agents. Okay, you're right. It's a soup book. Everybody knows it's a soup book. Why didn't it just have some soup rules? Why were they like, and you get an army rule, and then we're gonna do this, that, and the other, and also this, like almost like they forgot about it. And here's a little soup sprinkle. What were they thinking?
Do you know their army rule?
No.
Their army. I was trying to tell you this earlier, and it made me apparent you don't know what their army rule is. Their army rule is literally they get souped into other armies. That's
Uh,
their army rule.
well,
They only can play off a detachment rule. That's their only source of like any additional rules.
yeah, but now they. I mean, can they even be souped in 11th now? Because they're detached.
I would imagine so.
Here's my thing. They have 4 detachments. Okay, and if you want to take them theoretically in 11th edition, you playing nothing but, like you say, Imperial Breachers times 6, or I don't even know if they're battle line. It makes no sense.
Yeah.
Let me tell you
If your
something.
6 squads of RBDs got 6 rhinos to carry them in, you're looking at 500 points so far.
Yeah, and according to pedants on Twitter, you better get a whole lot more because you need 2,000 points to pass go. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous. Get down in the comments. Mini Takes always wants your takes. Let us know what you think about Combat Patrol. You know what? Not so much even Combat Patrol. Forget that. Just something like 40K, a bit of an institution at this point, or any big, chunky tabletop war game. Does an onboarding game mode even make sense? Because I argue it doesn't. But get in the comments and argue back with me. How mad are you that your Space Marines are sometimes going to have to play with a computer terminal? Again, I just played Space Marine 2. Do you know how many times we had to wait on stuff to download while the Tyranids attack in that game? They go to the well, let's just say. And the bucket is small, and the water trips are frequent. We'll see you guys next time.
Mini takes.